Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Let's Talk Morning Show with me, John, and Dennis. This is the weekly show where we get together and we answer your guys' burning questions. Let's see who's here right now. Dennis, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you. Mr. Smelly Potato, good morning.
And he says that Jurassic Park Rebirth is the second best Jurassic Park movie. I'm seeing that tomorrow, so we'll see. I'm hoping.
I hope for your sake, because you said that right now the tradition is to go be disappointed. So let's see if it could end the cycle.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of don't want it to end. It's kind of part of like the game. Question of the week was won by Kylie Tinkle, but we'll get more into that after 9 because today Dennis and I are really here for one big question. If we have some time at the end, we have a few other questions that we're going to answer. But really, today we're here to talk about some cinematography. And we're doing this because last week on the show, Pop and Fresh donated some money and he wanted us to do an episode on, like, the top 10 best looking movies of all time, or the best shot films of all time, or the 10 best movies with the best cinematography. So, this is something that's pretty, when you watch any movie, you know what this is. It's the way the camera moves, it's the way that it looks, for the most part, like how it's lit, all that stuff comes down to this. And they pick the shots and how it looks going to the viewer. Obviously, production design is something a little bit different, but they all combine to give you this beautiful picture.
Yeah, and for this list, I did, we were talking about it yesterday. I went a little bit mixed because when you look this up, every list in the world is the same top 10 or the same top 50, or they just go through who won best cinematography of the year that year. So some on my list are like blockbuster hits that have won the award, but I did try to not, because I want to add a little personal flavor to this. I don't want it to just be reading every other Reddit top 10 list that there is. So there's some big names in here, but there's some personal favorites that, I just threw in there because I remember them very vividly.
Hey, that's fair enough. I kind of went like that way too. I picked my 10 favorite like this, but some of my favorite are the ones that ended up on those kinds of lists too. So it's like a little bit of overlap. And I also tried to keep it to like one director's film, so I'm not overlapping, because you can pick like all of Stanley Kubrick's cinematography because they're all beautiful films.
Yeah, I feel like there's a handful of guys that you probably could pick just every one that they've ever done because they have their style and they're great at it. But I kind of did the same thing. I think I have a healthy mix in here.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. Good morning, mellow fellow. I'm glad you're here. And Paris, Texas is a great movie, great, one of my all time. It's in my top 5 all time, and it is a beautifully shot film. I don't know if it made my list though. We'll have to wait and see.
Ooh, exciting.
So you want to
Um,
start us off?
yeah, so I went number 10. This one's actually one that's been on a lot of the lists when I was doing the research for this, but I do remember watching it and enjoying it, and that is There Will Be Blood with Daniel
Ooh,
Day-Lewis.
There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis is one of my favorite films. That's a good one.
Yeah, I just feel like the main reason I put it on here is because the setting for the most part is just kind of could have been very dull, very gray and washed out because they're just like on the sandy plateau or the sandy dunes looking for oil. But the way that it was shot, there's that iconic scene, of course, with the flame coming out of the oil that they're drilling. I mean, yeah, that shot right there. Like you see how it somehow for me, even though that is a pretty gray picture, it's very captive. It's very beautifully shot. The angle, the way he's viewing, I don't know, there's something about the way that this was shot. It could have been super dull, but I feel it really stands out.
Yeah, and that whole movie is filled with beautiful looking shots. I mean, yeah, this is incredible how they actually did that, to have it. And for a movie like this to be about a guy who's just really manipulating people so that he can get ahead, and it's still such an interesting film. And a lot of that is because of the cinematography.
Yeah, 100%. So that's why it's on here. Like I said, it's not I think overall too. I mean, not to get off topic too much because a lot of these movies we're going to talk about are just really, really good movies. Um, this film itself as a whole is fantastic, but I think the cinematography, a lot of it's beautiful. I mean, even when you're like inside the bars and restaurants when he's making the deals, when you're in his big house at the end, all that stuff, the way it's shot, it's all very well put together. It's lit perfectly. I feel like there's never a moment in this movie that you're a lot of times I feel like there are movies where the lighting's a little off and you're kind of squinting and you can't really see certain things, or this one just feels not over bright, not over dark. It finds that middle ground where it's just very, very beautiful start to finish.
Yeah, that's a nice choice. And you could pick a lot of PTA movies. He's somebody who always has very good looking movies. It's funny because he hasn't somebody who embraced 4K. Like There'll Be Blood, despite being that beautiful, is only still available on Blu-ray.
Wow, I wonder why he won't go.
I don't know. It's very strange. The only one we have is Phantom Thread and Punch Drunk Love.
Okay, well, I'm throwing in my vote. There Will Be Blood should come to 4K.
Yeah, that and Boogie Nights should come to 4K too. We need to see Dirk Diggler's his Johnson in 4K. It's long overdue.
Yeah, crystal clear on that bad boy.
I'm saying, like they put a lot of work into that prosthetic. It needs to shine.
Yeah.
All right, my number 10 is Apocalypse Now. This is my favorite war film of all time. So of course the cinematography is beautiful and they got all of these shots on location. It's one of the, you know, one of the movies that's so well renowned for how it was shot, just because it took years to make this movie. Everything that could go wrong went wrong.
Mhm.
Storms. Martin Sheen had a heart attack. Everything changing actors. Like it was originally supposed to be Harvey Keitel. What's his name? Marlon Brando shows up out of shape and not knowing his lines, and you got to figure that out. And again, a lot of it came to like, okay, well, let's just shoot his head. Some of these crazy shots, like in the daytime, like having like going down the river with multiple colors on the screen, it's beautiful. Night shots that look like, not this one, because it's There Will Be Blood, but like this, I can never edit to the stage. Like, beautiful looking shots, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100% agree. A lot of like that too. I was gonna say a lot of it, the jungle, like the river scenes. There's the one that I'm thinking of where they're on the boat and there's a couple fires. It's
Mhm.
daytime, but there's a couple fires in the background too. Like you have the bright green foliage, you have kind of the darker brown mud on the side, you have the fires in the background. There's a lot of like earthy tones playing with warm tone. It's just it really the jungle setting in that film, I think goes a long way. It's so vibrant for what's a pretty dark movie.
Yeah, the colors don't really. There's even scenes of like just beautiful shots of like whatever smoke they're shooting in the air, and it's like yellow, and it's like it stands out. And then you got shots where they set up the camera in the helicopter, which we've seen a million times since. But all that kind of started like right here, and this is the '70s. Like they're shooting this stuff, and it looks amazing. And I mean, it's one of the best looking. And I think the reason why I love the movie so much again is because it looks so great. And then it's not like your typical Vietnam film. It's like a character study really of these guys, and that's the best kind of Vietnam films. So like what actually happened to them, and the jungle being a main character in the film, like a lot of Vietnam films, you want it to look pretty, don't you?
Yeah, I feel like main characters got to look good, and they do a great job of that. The way the jungle looks in this, whether it's daytime, nighttime, whether there's fire or smoke or and the tear gas or the mustard gas, all that stuff. I mean, the jungle really stands out. They did a great job of making that part of it stand out in this film. But like you said, even that one shot you just showed in the darkness with the fire as the backlight, it's just so well done. Just to really like, if you go in even not to watch the movie, just to see the imagery, it's a really captivating film.
Yeah, just exactly. And it's got a beautiful looking 4K that really shows it off. A good early 4K too. Came out
Yeah,
years ago.
nice.
So what's your number 9?
So this is a little bit more recent. I went with 2010's Inception.
Ooh, that's a great one. I love Inception. That's one of my favorite films. That's a good choice.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I almost feel like it's cheating, because it's Christopher Nolan, but in this one, there's just so many scenes. I mean, the way that everything was shot, when the rooms are spinning, when the city is turning upside down, when the one that always comes to mind is the van, when the van is slow-mo crashing,
Oh
and
yeah,
the
how we
way
keep cutting back to that.
yeah, and like the water slowly entering, the way that whole just that scene alone to me made it stand out so much. But I think it's a little bit of a cop out because obviously you're playing in dreamland, so you can do a lot of fantastical things. But even with all that, none of it feels fake. If that, like none of it looks like, okay, now I don't believe this film anymore. It's all shot in a way that is just crystal clear. He obviously had a vision for it. Like I said, that scene, yeah. Look at the different tone. Like the buildings look incredible in that, even as they're spinning upside down. I mean, they look fantastic.
Yeah, a lot of Nolan's films always look really, really good. I think that's my favorite. I mean, Oppenheimer was incredible how that movie looked too. And I think his last two films he shot with the same cinematographer. I'm trying to look up who shot this movie because I think he switched cinematographers sometime through. Let me see. Edited cinematography. Yeah, Wally. Yeah, this is not the guy he usually uses, but Wally Pfizer did this one. He won and earned him an Academy Award for Best Cinematography. So
Yeah, that's kind of my cheat. Like I said, some of them are gonna be on the list because they just are that good. Try like I said, there's some personal flavor, but sometimes a film is just so good you got to pick it, and that's one that, again, it was in the early days of me getting into movies. Because I wasn't super into collecting that hardcore till about 2010, 11, 12. Like that was kind of where it peaked for me. Um, and that came out, and I remember seeing it, and just everything is so vivid in that. Every dream is so unique, and they're almost all they're very different, but they're all very the same, and I like that part of it.
even the opening dream sequence, how we're like combining like Japanese structure, like right on the beach there, and then we have the
Hmm.
water shooting through the sides, which I think I read they only had one chance at that, because you got to fill that whole setup with water now. And when you look at the making of it, it's like, well, the cameras have to all be in the right place and ready to go, and obviously the results are out there, so they speak for themselves.
Yeah, they obviously nailed it, thank God. I mean, one take, that's a lot of pressure, but I don't know. I think that's one that, again, I mean, it's a long film, and if we get onto the story and all that stuff, I know some people don't love it, but just in terms strictly cinematography, how beautiful the whole movie looks, every scene looks great.
Yeah, and this is great. Yeah, that's true. The camera Into the Blue. I love Into the Blue. Jessica Alba does look beautiful, but she always does, doesn't she? Wasn't she on that show with the whale Flipper? I think in the 90s. I can't remember.
Flipper, dude, what a throwback.
It is Flipper,
Nice.
right?
Yeah, I think you're right. Flipper. Wow.
Oh
So
man.
yeah, what's your number nine?
Oh man, now I really want to. I got to be honest. I really want to watch Inception now. I always get the itch in the summer. You push me over the edge.
There we go. You got to watch that. And I'm watching Dark. What was it? Dark Cities.
Dark City. Oh, you're gonna love
Yeah,
Dark City. I have a hunch.
I'll
Um,
let you
so
know.
so my next one is The Red Shoes. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. I have the 4K Blu-ray from I gotta remove this and add this. But this is like the main cover. Like the way they did this movie is from the 1950s, and it's a unique way of shooting. It's like they used, I think it's tricolor Technicolor or something like that, or three color like way. They were able to like color it three ways, and it looks very unique. And when you watch it, like scenes look like paintings.
Interesting. I was gonna say, just this picture alone. I mean, that bead of sweat on her forehead coming down, like, all really. Oh yeah, I mean that too. That's incredible.
Yeah, like there's just beautiful shots like this throughout the movie, and it's like it's a dark movie too. Like, have you ever seen the movie? I think it's Perfect Blue, and what was the movie with Natalie Portman where she plays a ballerina? She won
It
an
wasn't
Academy
Black
Award.
Swan, right?
Black Swan. Yeah, she won an
Okay.
Academy Award for that movie actually.
Yeah.
And you know how the pressure of ballet gets to you. Like that's what this movie's about. Like, do you choose love or do you choose your career, kind of deal? But it's
Okay.
like darker. But obviously because of the era of when it came out, they can't go like into what like Black Swan comes into.
Yeah.
But
That's it. I have not seen it, but just those pictures alone that you showed look really. That's something that's amazing as I start to dive into a lot of older film, is how good you'd expect like, oh, this movie's from the 40s or the 50s. It's really gonna look like crap. A lot of them look really good.
it just shows you how lazy we've kind of gotten in like filming everything in controlled environments and then fixing it with CGI after. Like they had no choice back then but to make it look good with the camera like on that day. And I get it because like movies I'll talk about later, like you only have a certain amount of like you're just waiting, you're paying people to wait for like the sun to come up or the sun to come down or for it to stop raining. And it's like, well, we could just fix that with CGI now, but the results are so much better.
Yeah, I feel like I agree. The and we talk about it a lot in everything. When it comes to shooting movies, I just feel like having an actual set and having actual props and like having it be real life. I know that's like seems so obvious, but if you shoot something in real life, it comes across so much better than faking it.
Exactly. And you could still make things have their own artistic tone just having them there. Like I said, like with the red shoes, like things look like paintings, but they shot that with film. It's like it just came out the results from doing all that work. I get it. You color the film after all. That's kind of like what modern day post production is with like those early 2000s filters. Like people liked that at the time because it was new. It's just we used and abused it.
Yeah, which is something we come across quite a bit. I know that's your least favorite filter is that greenish tan kind of that every single horror movie. But that's the thing, like one person does it and it's good, so everyone else does it for the next 5 years, and then all of a sudden you're like, this is stupid.
Yeah, like it works sometimes. Like, I can't knock it. Like I think The Ring has the green and blue filter, and I love The Ring, and I think that's where it works because that movie just it like feels like it's rainy and green and blue like Seattle the whole time. It's the same thing. Like I know you love the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's what that filter kind of works because it does make it feel like hot Texas. Like it works for that.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. There's a handful of times it works, but I think the problem is when you just slap it over everything, when you're like, we have another 11 movies coming out, let's slap this filter on all of them because that's what people like. There's no thought process, and I think you're right. It's because in post, it's like a switch in post production. Just like, well, we're going to throw this on here instead of it being like a complex issue to tackle. It's so simple to do that they can just be like, well, they liked it on this other film, let's put it on the rest.
Yep, exactly. And then they just keep doing that. And then they get lazy, and then before you know it, they all just look the same and generic. It's like when we go through now, like a lot of the studio horror films, when their cinematography, they over highlight like the light coming through the windows, and I can tell that it's just they were in front of a green screen and this is the background they put on, and they all use the same one. And then when something comes along where they actually like filmed on location, like Bring Her Back, I'm like, see, this is what you should be doing.
Yeah, yeah, it's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Now that brings me to my number 8, right?
Yep.
So my number 8 is another kind of cop out, big old James Cameron's Titanic.
You know what? It's a great choice. Didn't make my list, but that is a fantastic choice. I mean, there are some phenomenal shots in Titanic, and then of course they built the Titanic to sink it and everything in that location. So I can't knock you for this one.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a lot. I mean, even in the boat, again, like all the dynamic between, when they go from like the fancy dining halls down to dancing with everyone below deck to out on the deck when they're like, the sun is setting and the candlelight when he's drawing. And I mean, there's so many scenes in this. The night sky once the boat has sank and the flares going off. There's so much iconic imagery in this. Yeah, I mean, that alone, just look at that. It's just and it's a 90s movie too, which is, that speaks volumes as well. I know it's not a 50s movie, but and again, it's a cop out. It's a blockbuster hit. Everyone knows it. Everyone would pick it and everything. But I just feel like the imagery in it, the way everything is lit, there's a huge difference too, tonally, between when they're like in the fancy dining rooms with all the wealthy people, and then when they go down below deck and start dancing and hanging out with all the poor people, just tonally, lighting wise and everything, very different atmosphere just from the camera work alone. You could tell like everything is stiff and rigid upstairs. Downstairs, the camera's shaking a little, it's moving around with everyone. There's a lot of stuff like that goes on that's just really, I think it's really well shot.
No, you're absolutely right. Exactly like that. We're just talking about the dining halls. I mean, that stairway with the chandelier. Obviously great production design to get like the accurate close of the era. Even like making the beautiful making it look so beautiful up top, but so ugly and gross down under where like the poor people have to stay, and how everything is like that just burnt red and just pale white, and bunk beds, and just no effort put into it at all. Just treat these people like the rats that are running around down there too.
Yeah.
Just perfectly shot. It is a perfectly shot film. I mean, obviously, paint me like one of your French girls, Jack. It's a beautifully shot scene. What can I
Yeah,
say?
that it is. That it is.
So
Yeah, yeah. I just think all of even when it's sinking, when they're rushing through the water, the way the water looks, the way it captures the water kind of blowing through the doors and chasing them down the hallway, the way it like makes the ocean take on its own life. Where it's like you feel dread that this thing's coming for you. So there's so much about it that it had to be on my list.
it's a great choice. And Pop and Fresh donated $100. Thank you so much, buddy. And this is the guy who inspired this list. Hero, good morning from California, Jets. I'm 45 minutes late. Thanks for taking my question, and we'll catch up later from your suggestions on the cinematography topic. I'm off to work, and we'll catch this episode later in the evening. Later, John and Dennis. Thank you so much, buddy. Yeah, this is why we're doing this as like the main question today. So we appreciate it, and thanks again so much.
Yeah, thank you. Greatly appreciated. Great question too. Really enjoyed doing the research on this. I hope that you like our lists and maybe we suggest some things that you weren't thinking of.
Yep, and David's here. Good morning, buddy.
Good
And
morning. How you doing?
And in response to your mellow fellow said he thinks it looks a little too digital, which they did use some digital effects, but again, like they really did that Titanic was really built in a soundstage. I want to say Australia. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're in the 90s, so there's going to be a little bit of that, because I feel like the 90s is when CGI kind of started to come into every single film. I just still think there's a lot to it that they did physically.
Yeah, I mean they really did like shooting the water and like putting them in the water, like it's freezing. I mean, I'm sure a controlled environment, so it wasn't as cold as like they're dying. The poor people knew how to have fun in life. They did look like they were having fun. Jack was having more fun than those rich snobby people like Billy Zane and them up top.
Oh,
He's
100%.
perfect cast. He's perfectly cast. A Night to Remember. Like David knows this. I still haven't seen A Night to Remember. It's been I might have seen it, but I do not remember it at all. It's from the 50s. I think a lot of it's very similar to Titanic, but I have to watch that. Have you seen it?
I have not, no, but I can definitely add it to the list.
Yeah, that's one I know David's been getting on me for a long time too. So Mellow Fella, yeah, I'm sorry. I have not. Neither is Dennis. Dennis let you down though, more than anyone.
That I did. I guess I gotta go.
Bye.
So that's your number 8 now, right?
Yep, and my number 8 is my Stanley Kubrick pick. Like I said, I could have gone with pretty much any of his films. So I tried. I think the safe pick is always Barry Lyndon, but I haven't watched the new 4K yet because I haven't gotten it yet. So I'm gonna go with one that has one of the most beautiful looking 4Ks. 2001: A Space Odyssey is one of the best looking films of all time for reasons like this, and like shots like this are absolutely incredible. A movie that came out in the late 1960s to still look like it was shot yesterday, like to have things that still hold up today, predictions of like what the future would be like today to still be in movies like this. It's incredible. It's one of the best films ever made. It's not the most rewatchable film. I don't know if you've ever sat down and watched 2001. Like you got to really be in the right mindset for it, but it's still fantastic.
Yeah, so I have seen it, and the only reason I didn't put it on my list was because I have a couple other obviously I have Titanic and Inception and those big ones. And this is one we were talking. I said, I'm pretty confident you're going to put it on your list. So we'll get to talk about it. But you're right. I mean, for when it came out, the things that they did, the things they predicted, I mean, everything, it really is one of the best films that I've ever seen. I agree. The rewatchability part, you have to like mentally prepare and say, okay, I'm going to watch this today. But like you said, just the scenes you're showing alone, absolutely beautifully shot.
Yeah, it's incredible. And like I just think of things they did with the camera, like to make things look like they're floating because of the gravity. They, that stuff like on a string, and then they just able to make it look like the string isn't there. The way the camera moves, like when they go from certain, like they're walking on a thing that the gravity changes in there. The camera's got to illustrate all that to us. The sets look so clean and so gorgeous. Obviously the transition from the bone to the spaceship is one of the most iconic ones of all time, just showing like where we came from and where we're going. It's one of my all-time favorites. All right, just popping fresh real quick because he's getting out of here. He said, you got it, lads. I'm currently buying 4Ks and Blu-rays, mostly based on cinematography at this time. Carnival of Souls from the Criterion Collection is a superb black and white film and great shots. Yeah, that's one of the most iconic films of the horror genre that doesn't really, I think anyone could put that out too. I think it's in the public domain. It's a beautiful look, and I'm out. Have a good show. Thanks, buddy. And just to follow up with Shamrock Balls, for me, Titanic's a remake of A Night to Remember. That is a much better season of Titanic. That obviously the tragedy and the actual shots. Yeah, I mean, obviously I haven't seen A Night to Remember, so I have to check that out. But yeah, the thing with Titanic that you talked about is how beautiful it looks.
Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing to me is thank you again, Pop and Fresh. Appreciate all your contributions and questions. Just really great question here. And yeah, that's the thing with a lot of these films on my list too, is not talking about the film itself, being one of the greatest, talking about it being one of the nicest shot, one of the best looking. You know, that's definitely a key thing that we have to decipher, you know, to kind of change here is, does it look good? You know, there are a lot of films on here that I like, but don't think they're in my top 10 of all time. But I do think they're, you know, definitely worthy of being on a list in terms of cinematography, in terms of lighting and effects, and just scenery, really, as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the big things is that my list too, looking at it right now, is very a lot of these aren't even in my favorite. One film is in my top 10 of all time. The rest of them aren't. So, it comes down to like just as we're talking just strictly cinematography. I add in like I'm not gonna watch like a movie where I don't enjoy it a little bit, even if it's like the most beautifully shot thing. Like I always say, Gemini Man. People always say that's like you have to own that 4K. I'm like, it's beautiful. Like they did cool things with the frame rate of that movie, so it looks more natural and more realistic. It's photorealistic, but the movie itself just does not work for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. My
Realistic.
next one too, my number seven, actually, this one's, I'm already getting a lot of heat from people for some selections. This one is going to ruin all of my credibility because I picked this one solely on what the camera does as a character, and it's really any of them in the series, and that's Final Destination.
Oh, you know what though? That's a good choice. You're picking the first one, you're just picking the whole series.
You could pick any. I went with the first because it's the original, it's what started it all, but I just think the way that the camera is death in the film. You know, like the camera's a character. The way that it shoots all those scenes of all the little things that happen step by step up to how the person dies, I think is very creative, very interesting take on it. And again, it's on this list because the camera takes on a character itself. The camera is death hunting these people.
Yes, and you know what? That's why it's actually a great choice is to have it on the list. But you can go with all of them. I mean, I thought that Bloodlines had some great shots too, just very digital. But when you go back to the original, very much like practical effects of the time, and they work. They work, and the sequences are great. You can argue that like the film itself is like aged, not as gracefully as some of the other ones because it's the
Yeah.
first one, but it does. It also does feel like a 2000 movie when you watch it because this it has that look to it and that has that tone. So they captured that as well.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, this isn't on here because I think it's one of the greatest movies of all time or anything like that. I just think, in terms of doing what they did with the camera, making the camera a character in the film, I think that was, again, it's not the best lit, it's not, it doesn't have beautiful imagery all across the film. I just, in terms of cinematography, they took the actual camera and made it an integral part. Instead of just the thing capturing the whole movie, the camera was an integral part of the entire film and was leading you along on every single death in the film. So I thought that was just interesting. And I always think that anyone that takes a chance and tries something like that, um, is worth a shout out. We talked. I asked you about if you've seen In a Violent Nature because people kind of took a shot on that one, but that one was a little bit of a swing and a miss.
Yeah, I mean, there's been people like using the camera as, and actually, it's funny. Mellow Fellow brought it up right here. Children of Men uses the camera almost as a person too, like how it's like moving around and like like 360 shots, like it's sitting in the car with them. We keep the oneer going, which is always like one of the big things you have to do with like cinematography is always have everything set up for shots like that. Those are always the most impressive. But there was a movie a few years ago, I think it was called Hardcore Henry, where they put you in like the first person the entire film, almost like a video game. And
Yes.
the movie itself is like, it's okay. Almost kind of get a little bit nauseous with that. But it's creative because how do you like plan that whole? You got to set up all these rigs and then edit it all together after. It's got to be very, very difficult.
Yeah, and I think anyone that does that, really, take a chance with the camera, try something new. I like that, and I like when the camera plays an integral part in a film. I feel like if it's important, it's interesting, and I also added this one because, again, a lot of these other ones I'm talking about are on all the lists for best cinematography. Like Mr. Smelly Potato said, Lord of the Rings trilogy. That one was on there. A lot of Harry Potter films were on all the lists. There are a lot of those. So those are ones we all know are incredible. So I added this one because I actually like the Final Destination movies and I like what they did with the camera. So this one's just a personal flavor added to the list.
Yeah, That's you know what, and you have to go with your heart because these are the movies you like. And actually, it's funny. Mellofellow said, "If Lawrence not, I might have to unsubscribe just out of principle." And I understand that, but it's not on my list. I don't know if it's on your list. David Lean
Uh,
did make those incredible epics, that and Bridge of the River Kwai. And I was like, everyone always brings up Lawrence Arabia. I'm gonna try and give some love to some other ones. I just feel like that's one of like that and Barry Lyndon are like the obvious answers on every like. Just go see those movies, and you'll see how incredible the cinematography is for them. Especially to make epics of the time. That's why Lawrence Arabia is, great transitions in that as well. Shooting in the desert. They are incredible films. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that they're not, but everyone knows they are.
yeah,
Or you
and I
should.
think that yeah, that's again kind of the point of this list, right? Is like if you guys want the top 10 of all time, just Google it. That's what when we were asked this question, I just looked up best cinematography, went added some that I just remembered, but every single list from IMDb, on Reddit, every list you find has the same like top 50. So I just didn't want to come on here and regurgitate what is already all over the place. That's why some of these are on here, even though everyone's hating on Titanic and hating on all this other stuff. It's just alternatives. It's like everyone knows what the real top 10 are. They know Lawrence of Arabia is great. They know all these ones are great. So instead of just kind of going through and rereading someone else's Reddit list, figured to add a little pizzazz, bring the
My God,
conversation up.
that was the word I was thinking of was pizzazz. You always got to add a little pizzazz to some things.
That's it. That's it. So that should be your number 7 now.
Yep, my number is it number 7? Yeah, it's number 7. I messed it up, and for some reason I made a sub chapter in here. I don't understand why. So now I have a 1.0 that screwed up everything. But my next one is going to be the Grand Budapest Hotel. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but I'm a big fan of Wes Anderson. I would say that this is probably the best looking of his films.
Yeah, I have seen it. I'm not a huge. I'm on the other side of the fence with Wes Anderson. I think he's a little too art housey, I guess you could say, for me. But I do agree in terms of cinematography. Almost, I feel like all of his films are really just incredibly shot.
Yeah, pretty much. I always like his first two films, Bottle Rocket and Rushmore, which Rushmore's still my favorite of his films, and that one looks like the most. I would say it doesn't like his style, but once you got to like the Life Aquatic, he started adapting that like dollhouse style they call it, where everything's centered perfectly. He uses a lot of shots where actually he'll cut like the set in half so you can see people moving around. A lot of close ups and editing really quick so that you get like a look at certain items. All that kind of thing came to fruition in this movie, like just using the pastel colors, but everything looks so artificial because it is very much, his style of, an art. It is an art house director essentially fitting into his style, whether it be in the dialogue or how it's shot. It's very much you have to be a fan of Wes Anderson. You're completely right. I think you either love this guy and love what he does, or you absolutely hate him because you got to like that like kind of quippy dialogue that nobody ever really changes their tone too much.
Yeah, and honestly, what really undid him for me was the episode of Family Guy where they make fun of his movies. So now all I ever think of is the Family Guy. That Peter says something like, "And here's a Wes Anderson movie where nothing's going to make any sense," and he just does. He like cuts to a telephone and then like a book, and then Peter's sitting in a chair, and and they all just like, "We're gonna have a big show." Okay, we're gonna have a big show. And so that's all I think about when I think Wes Anderson now is just Family Guy.
Family Guy and Saturday, which I think is Family Guy too for a lot of that kind of stuff. And Saturday Night Live also did a good one, like showing them also like with exactly you could spoof him, and he's been spoofed over and over, and essentially now he's just kind of leaned into it. Like all his movies are just that style. You're not going to get anything different out of him. He's just going to take his style and maybe put it over a different kind of genre, like the Venetian Scheme. It's like that one's like more violent than his typical movies. Like this movie has deaths and everything, but it's very stylistic.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. And again, like we were just talking about, taking chances, doing your own thing. I feel like I'd rather have someone like him who has an idea and likes to do things his own way than have, people who are just carbon copies that Hollywood hires to print out the same old Marvel Universe movie every single year. So I give him props for diving into what he likes and sticking to it.
Yeah, exactly. He just is his kind of guy. And that's some of the best auteurs, I guess, and best directors at this point. They just do what they like. They get their people together, make their movies. Like every time Tarantino comes out, it's still gonna feel like a Tarantino movie. It's just, are you behind their style? Like, you like Rob Zombie's style. I'm not a real big fan of it. So it's always just like, when it comes to these kind of directors who aren't directors for hire, you got to really kind of be behind what they're going for.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think it's funny we kind of land on opposite sides on a few different, but that's why I like the discussions because sometimes you'll bring someone up. I'm like, "Oh, I don't really love him, and you recommend a film. I go back and watch. I'm like, oh, you know what? Actually, I should have given him another shot.
Yeah, hey, it's the same way with me. Like that's why I wouldn't have found 31 if it wasn't recommended to me. Like, okay, well, I'm not a big fan of his, but let me check out 31. And sure enough, 31, great film.
Appreciate that. Yeah. So now I'm at six, I think, right?
Yep, you're at number 6 because that was my 7.
So this is one that's come up quite a bit in recent conversation, in movies that I should rewatch, movies you should go into blind, movies that I don't recommend ever seeing, and now cinematography, and that's Midsommar.
Midsommar is a great choice. That is a beautifully shot film.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm happy we landed on it here because we're just talking about art house. It is art house horror to the max. It is insane the things that go on in the film. The film itself, like the storyline, is wild, but the scenery, the beautiful. I mean, I don't think that I've ever seen a more vibrant horror film in terms of just the fields, the meadows, the flowers, the forest, the sky behind the mountain. I mean, everything in Midsommar is so vibrant, so bright, so colorful. I just feel like it is. Yeah, I look at those flowers. I mean, the sun beating on her face. Everything is so clear, so bright. I feel like it's a beautiful film for how disturbing it is.
Yeah, I mean, even like the night shots, like I think of them like sneaking around at that before they get caught in that one shot, and it's like they're being lit by the moonlight, so it's got like this like white haze on them almost, and it really like you said, like captures like that perfectly, like almost where it feels like natural lighting. And I don't know if it is. It might actually be because like this looks like it's completely natural lighting, maybe a little bit fanning the light towards her face. But I even remember like the spinning the camera around towards the end of her, like essentially like they've chosen her to be a part of their loving cult.
Yeah, well, she's part of the family now and she can't go back as she's watching. I mean, even the shots inside, I mean, spoiler alert,
Mhm.
obviously. At the end of that film, when they're all in that big barn and they set the barn on fire, even the shots in there as the flames kind of just start to slowly spread throughout, even that was just shot so well, catching the flame spreading through, slowly getting each bit of this barn until the whole thing is engulfed. And then the juxtaposition of the fire burning the entire barn to her in that flower outfit. You have just this orange and brown, fiery plume of smoke cut to her in just a rainbow of flowers, and then back to the flame, back to her. I just think it's one of the most memorable in terms of colors and just how vibrant it is. It's one of the most memorable movies I've seen in recent memory.
Yeah, that's what stood out to me the most, and that's why like when I walked out of the theater, I didn't love Midsommar, and I haven't still gone back. I still keep saying I got to go back and rewatch it, but I couldn't deny how beautiful the movie looked, and it's enough to like be like, yeah, I recommend this movie. Just go ahead and just watch it and like, explore the actual how beautiful it is because it opens up like even like those snow shots. Those look beautiful too, and that's a crazy juxtaposition when we go from that to the beautiful colors.
Yeah, and I mean, again, if you're going into it for the actual storyline, be ready to be just confused and all of your senses assaulted and feel very uncomfortable because it is bizarre. But if you're going into it just for cinematography and for the beautiful visuals, you're gonna have a great time.
You're gonna have a good time. We like to have a good time here. So my number 6 is Night of the Hunter. Now this is a great horror movie from the 50s starring Robert Mitchum, but it has some of the most beautiful shots that I've ever seen too. Let me see if I can find some of them on my little thing here because I set it up to try and be responsible. I
Nice of
thought
you to do that.
right? I thought so. So like look at this shot. This is underwater. Like this girl, she's dead. She's in the car, but look, all this stuff would be moving around in the shot. This movie came out in the 50s. They do crazy shots like this too, where again, doing stuff in the camera, where it's supposed to be Robert Mitchum in the distance riding his horse while we could see somebody in the foreground and they're like singing to each other. Now, the
Hmm.
way they got that was they got a little horse and a little person to ride that. So it looks like, I guess, adult sized from the distance with the camera. I mean, shots like that are just beautiful. This movie with shadows, I think it's the best black and white film I've ever seen. It's between that and Lahain.
I was gonna say, I think what helps this one a lot, and it's funny, we just had the conversation last week about black and white films, and it's a shame that it's hard for people to get into them because in terms of shadow work, really, I think black and white lighting is huge in black and white film. That is the shadow work is absolutely crazy in black and whites. And I mean, this obviously shows it. I'm just thinking of I have seen this one. I think the scene with his hands on the table.
Oh yeah, love and
I,
hate. Mm.
yeah, where but his hands are so clear, but he's in the darkness. Like even that little bit of lighting, really great.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm trying to look, David, if there's a UK release, but I have a 4K release of Night of the Hunter from Kino Lorber. I don't know if there's a UK release of it though. Other than that, hopefully. Let me see. Night of the Hunter. Yeah, I'm only seeing region free for Kino Lorber, but there might be one. Maybe Mellow Fellow knows where there might be a 4K release of that. But it's a beautiful looking film. Criterion has it too. Any which way you can see it, the beauty just stands out on Night of the Hunter for me.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. And I think you're right. I think it's one of the better black and whites that's out there. It's just such a good, I don't know, it's very well shot. The way it just uses lighting in the best ways.
Yeah, exactly. And this one works out really okay. So Arrow did do one for the UK. Yeah, it's using lighting and shadows. A lot of it came from German expressionism. They brought it over here to the United States. It's This is one of those classic horror films that I think still stands up. A lot of it is the cinematography, but even the story in general of just like you don't get stories like that, like a serial killer just going like city to city. Essentially, it's very similar to The Stepfather when you think about it. Actually,
Yeah, that's kind of funny. We just did the review on that too. And you're right. I agree. I think it's one of those ones, everyone always talks about the same horror movies. They talk about Psycho, which I almost put on the list, and they talk about, then you get into later stuff and, you get all the Hitchcock, then you get the Halloweens, all that. I don't think this gets enough credit for what it really did in terms of horror.
no, it doesn't get enough credit. It's a shame. It's almost like kind of forgotten. There are some people who will keep bringing it up, and I think it's kind of gotten more love now than it ever has gotten, which is good because I think people need to go back and see it. Oh, okay. Criterion's is region. There's a region V version of it too, so that's good. So there's plenty of ways to get it. It's got good extras. Robert Mitchum, you've always recognized that voice, like it's in Tombstone. He's in the original Cape Fear. He's in actually the remake too. He plays the guy at the beginning, but also what's that movie? He plays the boss. I'm drawing up Scrooge. He's in Scrooge also. So great guy. Not in this
Great
movie.
guy.
Not in this movie. He's not a nice guy.
Not the best, but not the worst.
No, he does some things that a little bit. It's hard to forgive. It's hard to look
Yeah,
past.
just a bit. All right, so
Mhm.
now that we're in my number five now, right?
Yes, sir.
Number five is kind of another recent one, but I just remember a lot of the scenes standing out, and that is The Dark Knight.
Ooh, The Dark Knight does have some incredible shots. That's a good one. I mean, you could have gone with any. You could have even gone with The Dark Knight Rises too. That's a beautiful looking movie, even if you don't think that the movie itself is that good.
Yeah, I think that's why I went Dark Knight. I mean, just like the bank robbery scene alone in the beginning, the scenes, the window blowing out of the skyscraper,
Oh, that's so cool, isn't it?
yeah, taking the cable across down, building to building, the city below them. I feel like there's so much about the city in that one, which I like a lot. There's a lot of really great scenes. The chase in the tunnel, when they're trying to break, um, the Joker shooting all the missiles and everything at the armored truck, and it's all the underground tunnels, and then it comes out into the city. The tonal differences, yeah. I mean, just look at that shot. Again, it's one of those cop outs. I feel like everyone knows it, everyone appreciates it, but it really is visually one of the best. And it's still arguably one of my all time favorite Batman movies. The only one that's creeping up close to it is the more recent Batman,
Oh,
because
the
that's an
Batman.
actual, yeah, because that one's
Yeah,
actually a Batman movie, you know?
yeah. So I actually was. I'm like, do I pick a Batman movie? A Heat ripoff. Yeah, the opening scene to this is definitely a huge Heat ripoff. Which me and
Yeah,
David are talking Heat later today, so it's a little plug for that.
there you go.
But yeah, they take a lot from Heat. But I've really, again, Christopher Nolan's movies always look good. People got to remember about this movie, especially when you're talking about it. Uh, pulls you in, especially this movie is the IMAX sequences, and this was the first like live action film to be using the IMAX cameras on set. So a lot of this stuff, like to get those shots, it's still hard to use IMAX cameras, but we're going back 17 years ago. It was 10 times harder. Those things are loud, they don't really move. And the opening sequence to get those shots with the IMAX cameras, obviously, Nolan would double down, triple down, quadruple down in the future, but to get it for this movie, and then it still holds up.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many iconic scenes that, every any scene where Batman's standing on top of a building is just incredible. Um, just and when he's riding his motorcycle through the city too, when he crashes, just every sequence in this film is so beautiful. Even this one, I mean, it's just a shot on a street corner, but that city looks incredible.
Yeah, and you don't even realize that's the Joker yet when you first watch the movie, which is great because we just go right into it, and you got that Hans Zimmer score laying underneath. I wanted to pick Batman '89, but I just didn't know if I could pick like the cinematography overall because there's a lot more that goes into that one, like the production design, like the set design itself, all that. I was like, is that overall just them, or is it a combination of a bunch of people's work? So that's why I didn't pick a Batman movie, but you could have picked any of that and the Batman. I agree.
Yeah, so that's again, I just picked this one. I didn't want to pick a superhero movie, but I just felt like this one was another one that when you saw it, you were like, wow, that was, you weren't just obsessed with Joker or Batman. You knew what you saw was a beautiful movie.
Yeah, it wasn't. It kind of was different than any superhero film you ever saw, and really, it changed the genre. That whole year, we had that in Iron Man, but Iron Man still feels like more like the way it's shot, like a superhero film. This
Yeah.
one obviously was a little bit more like you could say this is just a heist film if you wanted to, or a mob film. It's not necessarily a Batman film.
Yeah, it's a Heat ripoff.
Yep, it's a Heat ripoff. Batman and Joker are just Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. They complement each other.
That's it.
They need each other. If one's not doing the bad, then we don't have the guy doing the good.
That's right. That's right.
Ah, man. Hey, funny how we got there. So that was your what, number 5?
Five. Yep.
So my number 5, this one's like one of the more obvious ones, but I still wanted to talk about it because I think this is kind of a movie where people back then really started paying attention to cinematography, and that's Citizen Kane. Have you ever seen the
Nice.
classic?
I have. I actually took a film class, and we watched Stagecoach, Citizen Kane, Casablanca, all those classics.
Oh, that's awesome. That's an awesome class. I truly feel like if you're any classic cinema you can recommend to people and say it still holds up, I think Citizen Kane is one of those movies. And I think a lot of it's because of the way it's shot.
Yeah, it's definitely one that I like. It just holds up, and I think a lot of that. There's good acting, there's good stories. I think that a lot of times cinematography kind of falls, um, kind of by the wayside, especially in modern film. But I think that's what makes a lot of older films stand out. We were just talking about one, um, that we're going to do a video on, and it's from the 30s, and it's this kind of stuff that makes it hold up. The fact that it's shot so beautifully, you don't feel like you're watching a super old movie, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's still the way this movie also has those great transitions, which all that kind of stuff. It was and it's funny. I've heard stories about when they shot Citizen Kane. Orson Welles didn't, that was the first film he ever made, and he didn't really know too much about how to light the set. So his cinematographer would be like giving hand signals behind him when he would give direction of what he wanted done. So the cinematographer would interpret it, tell everybody how to light it, so that his vision would come across that way. So a real like combination of people's like his vision and the cinematographer actually knowing what he's doing to get what he wants.
Yeah. I mean, I love you put this picture up. I feel like this was a big thing, mirror stuff in old movies. Because even in the Hitchcock movies, I loved how much he used mirrors in it. Like he wouldn't have the camera on his actual actor. He would have it in on the mirror, so you would be watching the person through the mirror. And so I love how they played with that kind of stuff in these older films too, like this shot here. It's just so, I don't know. It's very creative, very unique. I love when people do that in film.
Yep, and a lot of this stuff was done in camera to make things seem bigger. Like when they go to the library and the library seems huge, it's just a regular set. It's just that's like when you put certain lenses on things to make things like seem huge. Like you put some smoke in there so you get a good silhouette. A lot of stuff like that was just being used so well in this movie, and I had to put it on the list because this is kind of one of those older movies that makes you pay attention to these kinds of movies. He used a lot of mirrors in Psycho. Yeah, he did use a lot of mirrors in Psycho to show duality, and that's kind of what mirrors are. It's your reflection reflecting back at you. And like in this scene, if you look, he can't even look in the mirror, but yet there he is, just going on forever.
Yeah, and I love that stuff, and that's I started to pay attention to it because of Hitchcock. Obviously, it's been done by before him and since him, but he was the first person that I really started to pay attention. I was like, oh man, that was neat the way he used those. So I do love this kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff in these older films that I feel like they got so creative with. That I don't know, like we talked about it earlier. I feel like modern film, a lot of times it's just lazy. It's just cut and paste. We got to cash a check here. Let's get something out. And we lose a lot of that creativity, like about using mirrors to show duality and using lighting instead of just everything one tone. I feel like we lose a lot of that in modern time.
Yeah, unfortunately, we really have, and I just feel like I think even Tom Cruise brought this up recently, actually, about how even the actors don't really understand how the lenses work, and it used to be a thing where everybody understood how a production works because you got to kind of know where to stand. The camera is the most important thing. It's the one taking the shot. It's not necessarily a play, and that's why some actors don't love this kind of job is because you kind of got to act with the camera. You got to know where to stand, how the lighting is going to be. If you fuck that up, you fuck up the whole shot.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess nowadays they don't care because it's so much easier to
That's
edit. They're not like wasting film or anything.
Those mirror would be CGI. Yeah, I know. That's crazy to me. Just get a goddamn mirror.
Yeah. Like, how is it cheaper to CGI a mirror and then to just put one on the wall?
Because they work these people working on the visual effects like slaves, so they pay them the bare minimum and make them work for hours.
Just insane to me. And this is the how we lose it. This is
Hmm.
why
Money.
rewatchability, I feel like these older films, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all those kind of films, very rewatchable.
Isn't
Where
that
you go
crazy?
modern films, not because you see it once, you're like, all right, that was okay. But the more you rewatch it, the more you're like, well, that's CGI. Well, that's not real. Well, that feels fake. And you just lose the realism that they had with all these practical physical sets.
Hmm. Which is it's just a shame because it was amazing, and it just did all the work in the camera, and it still holds up. We're talking about movies that are 80 years old at this point. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, and they look better than the ones that came out last week.
Mhm. Movies coming out today are some of the ugliest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Not all though.
Um, so I'm actually so funny. This is a little bit of a newer movie, but black and white, and I think you'll be happy that this one's on here at my number 4 slot. That is The Lighthouse.
Oh, I love that you put this on your list because I unfortunately did not. And yes, I love this movie. Beautifully shot, which you can hear me talk about how it's shot on the art show on Thursday, the A20 top 10 A24 films. But yeah, you put it on your list, so you talk about it.
Yeah, I feel like um again, black and white. You know what it is? I just have a soft spot in my heart for black and white. The older I get, the more I appreciate um, black and white film. Just everything, the lighting, the way that the camera, like, I don't know, the camera just captures, I feel like, the hectic energy and the panic so well in this movie. Because the whole time you're kind of guessing what's real, where are we, what day is this? And the acting and everything is great too. But I think it's just a lot of people would say, like, well, color, you'd get the water, the water would be vibrant and the beach and the lighthouse would look different. And it would. But I think the whole context of this film, you needed it in black and white because the shadows, and that's what we're talking about with the other black and white films, using the light source, using the shadows, using the darkness, pushes this film so far beyond what it could have been if it was color.
Exactly. And that's what kind of, and can you imagine the scene where they're like having their big monologues? They kind of shoot it low and have the light shining up on them. If that was actually not in black and white, if it was in color, I think you would lose something, in my opinion.
No, 100% agree. I think you lose a little bit of it. It just it was, yeah, like, look, imagine, like, that just looks so much crisper. Like, if that was color, I don't know, I feel like you would lose a little bit, because the jackets would probably be too clean because it's new,
Yeah.
like, they wouldn't be tattered. You can't tell what condition all their stuff is in right now. You just know that they look exhausted.
Exactly. That's one thing I always kind of notice. Like when a lot of actors today, when we play films, like one thing that the nice guys got right, thankfully, is people don't look the same anymore. Like to capture something 100 and something years ago, they were just rougher looking people. And black and white can cover up the fact that that's Robert Patterson and Willem Dafoe. Like Willem Dafoe has some miles on him, but Robert Patterson, that's a handsome fella. But the black and white, you can like make this guy look like, yeah, that's a guy from the early 1900s.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I even just love the lighthouse there, because if it was color and, because it's a newer film, if it was color, the lighthouse probably would have been crisp and clean and painted some vibrant red and white. And, it would just look like a cartoon almost. In black and white, it just looks like stone. It makes it feel unforgiving, it makes it feel cold and unwelcoming. And that's the point of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's the whole thing there. It's supposed to feel hollow, and you're supposed to feel confused with them. And the cameras do illustrate that too. The confusion. One of the shots I always think of, and is like because they have the long hallway, how the camera's kind of slowly going around the corner. You just hear Willem Dafoe saying, "Why'd you spill your beans?" Like it's funny, but like you can get the echo. But like looking at that hallway, it wouldn't work the same if it wasn't in black and white. And what's it called? Mozart's Ghost said, I tried to buy a bigger TV last year for more immersion, but had to quickly go back to OLED because it was so important for black and white. Yeah, OLED TVs and even like smaller TVs in general. Like I've always said, like my 41-inch OLED looks better than my like 77-inch because once we get that closer together, it just looks absolutely stunning. And black and white on an OLED looks incredible.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for black and white. I feel like, I don't know, the more we talk about this, the more we do shows, the more I'm getting into older movies, and the black and white thing is really, I don't know, it's coming to the forefront lately. I don't know if it's a phase for me. We'll see in 6 months if I'm still into it, but right now, it just feels, there's something different about it that just feels crisper, cleaner. Just feels more like a movie. I think I saw it was David who just said something about everything in modern movies feels like watching video games. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I kind of agree with David, like in a lot of ways. Like I'm really having a hard time with like modern blockbusters, I guess, or like just the modern studio films. But there's still some great stuff. Like 28 years later, like they are trying to do things that we were talking about here, like cool things with the cinematography. I don't know if you saw the camera rig with all the iPhones set up, so that in the movie when they shoot like an arrow through one of their heads, the camera does this cool thing where we could see it from all angles, almost like the Matrix, but like sped up. But like there's still people trying. You got that. Sinners, a big thing about that was like that's all shot on location with big IMAX cameras like Christopher Nolan. So it can be done if they want to do it. It's just that the modern like blockbusters just refuse to go that route. And unfortunately, it's like that's what's kind of I haven't seen like the two Marvel movies this year yet, which is crazy that have come out because I'm like I've seen I tried to watch the more recent Doctor Strange again for the first time since I saw it in theaters. I'm like, it's just such an ugly movie despite how colorful it is because it looks artificial.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, this is my grumpy old man coming out. The fact that you said they're using a bunch of iPhones to shoot a movie really upsets me.
But
I'm
they
not an iPhone hater by any means. I have one. They are great. The cameras are great, but like there's the movie fan in me really hurts that you said they're shooting a film with an iPhone.
Well, just think about it like this. The first 28 Days Later was shot with like a modern digital camera of the time, and it looks like shit. But, they had an image in mind what they wanted to do. With this, they're still putting nice lenses on the iPhones. Like, don't they promote it like, oh, it's shot on iPhone. Steven Soderbergh does this a lot too. They're just taking the iPhone's capabilities of the power of that camera, of like what it has internally, and putting nicer lenses on them. So it's still making it look like if you watch 28 years later, you're going to be like, it's beautiful because it is. It's a beautiful looking film, but it's using an iPhone, but it's not like my iPhone or your iPhone.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And again, I don't even if it comes out like obviously technology is great as it advances, that if it does work, it works. It's just, we're sitting here talking about black and white films and practical effects, and you're like, yeah, they're using iPhones to shoot a movie. And I'm like, what the hell?
Does that not make it feel that's a good I haven't seen 20 years later, but doing that with now showing it from different angles, does that make it feel unrealistic or a video game? Because in real life, you're only seeing it from one angle, which is a good point. But it's like I said, kind of like with the Matrix, do you get bothered by like the bullet time effect? Because that's really all it is essentially like when and 28 years later, the movie in general kind of it's not really about killing the zombies. Like I think that's like kind of what the turn off for it is. It's much more of a character study, coming of age story, and mother son story, father son story, a bunch of different things. It's not really about the rage virus necessarily. So it's a little bit different. It's really just stylistic choices for those kinds of shots. I can see why it would take you out of it a little bit because yeah, you do notice like because it's strange. It's not realistic. You wouldn't keep that angle the whole time, but I think it works in the film.
I haven't seen it yet. I do see the point though, like you want to watch something, like they're promoting the iPhone, it feels well, that's you also mentioned, modern cinema feels soulless. I feel like even when we talk wrestling, I mean, tables have Slim Jim stamps on
I'm
them
not
now.
over
Like
that.
everything is a money grab, I mean, I'm surprised that, when they're running in 28 years later, they're not like, let me put on my Adidas running shoes quick, and then show a quick sponsor of Adidas. Like everything is a cash grab, and that's the soulless part of it. Like they have to market that they shot this on iPhone because Apple paid them to. They have to market certain things, and I understand why that takes people out of it. Um, because like we're talking about these older films, if someone gets shot, they just get shot and fall down. Like and the way they fall is kind of silly in old films, sure, but like at least it's just one shot, they fall down. Um, I can see both sides of it. I could see why it pulls you out of the realism. I could see why it's kind of cool and innovative, in terms of what you can make a camera do. But I do land more on the side of realism. Like if you get hit, and one of my films later in two on my list, the realism aspect is why it's so high. Because I am definitely a person. That's why I don't really love Marvel movies. I feel like they're just too cartoony. They're too like woohoo, fly around, beat up the bad guy, let's go have pizza kind of thing. Um, so I definitely get that.
Yeah, well, David agrees with you. And I get like I try and like I guess I try and go into things and like and try not and be the grumpy old man. Like one reason I still keep seeing modern film so much is because I don't want to lose touch with film. Like and just like sit and just only watch old. Even though you can watch old film forever, I want to make sure I at least I guess have my finger on the pulse of like what movies are still. Like I don't want to because I mean it gets frustrating. As I'm glad that Jurassic World Rebirth did so good at the box office. I hope it's good when I see it, but it hurts to see a movie like that do so well and see movies that like earlier this year, Black Bag, directed by Steven Soderbergh, which was a movie like shot with great actors, cost only $50 million to make, and it couldn't make any movie money at the box office because people just don't go see original films really anymore. They has to have a name that they know, and I'm afraid that that's all movies are gonna be. Luckily, we have all these old films to still talk about, but I don't want modern audiences to like not get to experience stuff like this, even if maybe they don't want to. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think that's like a whole nother. We're on a little slightly
Yeah, it's a
different
little
topic, but
sidetrack, and I know we got to finish this list,
yeah,
but
no, it's all right though. It's a good conversation. I think you're right though. I think the problem is that the modern movie fan is just all about Marvel and reboot. Like it's like you said, it's got to have a name. Like I mean, even that new one that came out, what it's called, the Thunderbolts, and then they had to change the name to the New Avengers because people weren't going to see it because they didn't know it was the Avengers. Is that what happened?
I don't know if that's the reason why they did it. Maybe that's why they did it so fast because I still haven't seen it. But like, it was Thunderbolts only for the opening weekend, and then they changed it to the New Avengers. And it could be the return on the box office because it didn't do well. Both that and the new Captain America did not do well at the box office. I think people are burnt out by superhero movies, but they're clearly not burnt out by certain IP names because two of the highest grossing films this year are Lilo and Stitch's live action remake and Jurassic Park Rebirth. So or Jurassic World Rebirth. So it just shows that a name does have some value, but I think that Disney shot themselves in the foot in general because like look how bad Elio did the Pixar film. Just in general, like putting everything Star Wars, Marvel on Disney Plus, I think they devalued it so much and kind of ruined the theater experience because people just know it's going to come to Disney Plus soon.
Well, I think that's yeah, the streaming service killed it, and I think the other problem too is that Disney and like everything, they pumped Marvel out for what the past 10 years at this. There's been like 7 Marvel films every single year. It just they're pumping out. Same with Star Wars. We went how long without a new Star Wars film, and then all of a sudden there's like 7 TV shows and 4, pre sequels or what. They just kept pumping, pumping, pumping. And I think you're right. People are tired, but now I'm worried because, like you said, Lilo and Stitch's remake and Jurassic Park got the you know got the highest grossing ticket sales and everything. So does that now mean all the studios are gonna be like, okay, let's slow down on Marvel and let's just keep rebooting all this other stuff? And now we're gonna get like a live action Toy Story, and we're gonna get a Jaws remake, and we're gonna now they're just gonna reboot stuff instead of focusing on Marvel because clearly they're gonna see dollar signs with the reboots they're doing.
Exactly, and that's all these studios see is dollar signs. They don't really generally care if it makes money. What does IP stand for? Intellectual property. So essentially, something that's already existed, already has a value behind it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a previous movie franchise, but like an IP could be even for F1. That's kind of technically IP because F1 already existed in pop culture. It's already a known sport, so that's what intellectual property is.
Yeah.
So
all right. Yeah, no Jaws remake.
no, well, unfortunately, if once Steven Spielberg dies, I'm pretty sure the Universal head's going to be like, guys, Jaws, come on, he's gone. He's not going to complain to us anymore.
So that was my 4 was Lighthouse before we got sidetracked. What's your number 4?
So my 4 is directed by Terrence Malick, and this is another one that I'm sure is high on every list, but I couldn't deny it, and that was Days of Heaven. Just one of them. This was actually recommended to me by Rico Gomez for a very long time. He would recommend this movie to me, and I was like, all right, I'll finally see it. It stars Richard Gere, who very handsome fella. We talked about him on together a long time ago on Brooklyn's Finest. We did a video on me and you.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, we did.
So he's just fantastic, but he has shots like this, like in his movies. Like that's real fire, natural lighting, like while the sun's setting. Like he shot things in the magic hour, which is like that kind of little window before like the sun sets. You only have like an hour to shoot, like in the morning and night. So you have to make sure you have these cameras set up and ready to go. Use natural lighting. The story itself is pretty good. I enjoy that, but really you watch this movie for the cinematography. I didn't want to but like do that kind of on my list, but this was one where it's so breathtakingly beautiful I had to include it.
Yeah, and I think you're right. There's a lot of scenes like this. I'm thinking of one of the scenes that I'm thinking of too. Um, or most of the scenes, when they're sitting there in the field and the sun is setting and you have that natural sunset light off in the distance, casting the shadows across the field. Those look great. I mean, there's a couple of the night scenes with the fire too. Like you showed on Apocalypse Now, where it's dark, because the fire's in the background, the characters in the foreground are just covered in darkness. Yeah, that kind of, that shot.
That shot with the bugs is incredible in the film. And Mellow Fellow, I did see your comment about Carlito's Way. I put it on the screen. That's a great looking film too. And American Gigolo, Paul Schrader, great film. That's another Richard Gere movie. Looks pretty good too. But Richard Gere, he's one of those actors. He's just a good one. He's one of the good ones.
He's one of the good ones, yeah. And this one for sure, like you said. I mean, I guess this was one of the ones you were talking about before, where you said, you have actors and actresses kind of just waiting around to, for the right time to shoot a scene. Because he did, he used the sunset, the sunrise, he used all that very effectively. But obviously, those only happen at certain points of the day.
Yeah, so like what are you doing for the rest of the day when you're just waiting? And then like think about it, if somebody screws up, like the pressure that's got to be on you to act by everybody, like the guy with the camera, the guy with the boom, everyone, like the people, like whatever they got to set up to make sure it looks this way. And then the actors, like to be the person that screws that up, like I'd be sick to my stomach.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. But again, like we talked about, it's not CGI, it's not in some closed set where they're pretending the sun's beating down. Like this is real.
Yeah, and exactly. You can't it's perfect. And that's something if you can just capture that, because the thing is when you shoot something on film, it looks better than what 4K actually looks like. So now we're actually getting to see like the true beauty of what they were going for. Because I couldn't imagine watching a movie like Days of Heaven on TV and like appreciating it like in like the 90s on like a 13-inch TV. probably be terrible.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that that's where our modern technology comes a long way and helps what the original vision was come through.
Yep, I completely agree. And American Gigolo, yeah, that's one thing about that one when you watch the 4K, like they really kept a lot of the grain in, which not a lot of people like. That's a big thing between 4Ks now. A big argument is like people like the grain or some people don't like the grain. That and Witness had a lot of grain in their 4Ks, and some people really don't like that. I like that. I kind of agree with you, Mozart's Ghost, on that. They're known for eye candy, aren't that bad? But yeah, Badlands is a great one too. Yeah, Terrence Malick, he loves to like make his movies look good. They're not the results of the actual films are hit or miss for me. Yeah.
um, so my number three is one that I don't know. We talked about it. I wasn't going to put it on the list, but after we talked about it, I felt like it just had to be. And that is, it might be on yours, it might be higher. That is Raging Bull.
Raging Bull, I actually didn't put on my list after we kind of talked about it, so I'm glad I talked you into putting it on your list and I didn't put it on mine.
Yeah, the more we talked about it and the more love you were giving it as we were talking about it, I was like, you know what? I can't deny. Like I know I was trying to not make this a typical top 10 list, but you can't deny how good Raging Bull looks and the way they use the camera. It's just it's fantastic.
Yeah, the thing that I was telling you yesterday, what I love about that movie is like the camera plays a part in the way they shoot all the fighting scenes in this movie. Is like at the beginning the camera's more in the ring with them because it shows that Ray Liotta is like he's in the ring. That's where his head is. He's most focused on being in the ring. But as the movie goes on and his personal life gets worse and worse, and his drinking and he's eating, and he just becomes more and more of a slob and horrible person, his head's not in the ring anymore. And that's, the camera's moving out of the ring as the fights go on, moving further away until the point like he's not even in the ring anymore. Now that's it. He's just a down and out fighter.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, like I mentioned with Final Destination, the camera plays a part. The camera is his mind. The camera shows you that, like you said, it shows the development of
Yeah.
him as a person.
Yeah, you are on a black and white kick right now, so yeah, it's perfect. You pick another one.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just there's something about the cinematography in black and white films that really gets me.
Yeah, it's no Rocky 3. Like, yeah, well, as far as entertainment, like that's the thing about Raging Bull. I love the movie, but it's so hard to rewatch. He's just such an unlikable person.
Yeah, and look, again, that's why on this list it's not so much is this one of the best movies ever. It's is the cinematography some of the best ever, and I don't think anyone can deny that. But entertainment value, rewatchability, definitely not in my top 10 in those categories, but beautifully shot. The way the camera plays its own role is really just great.
Yeah, I agree. Great choice. I'm glad I made your list, and I actually didn't realize that Mellow Fellow that he shot both of those movies and Groundhog Day. So I was just bringing it up because I thought they looked similar, but I guess there's just a similar look to them in general.
There you go.
So that worked. My number three, and this one is might be a little high for a lot of people. Might like think, why would you pick a movie like this? So I picked Casino, and this one was shot, but it's another Scorsese movie. So it's funny you picked Raging Bull as yours. I picked this movie. And a big reason for the reason why I love Casino is because of the way it's shot and the way like it's highlighted. So I'll add this to the stage so you can see it. Like look at like the lighting around that, the white highlighting lighting around the plane around that. That's not natural. That's a stylistic choice. But that like kind of made me start paying attention to choices like this that are made in film. Why would they choose to do that? Why does it look so bright in these spots? You look it up, and the guy Robbie Richards who shot this movie, he also has done every single Tarantino movie I think since Kill Bill. And you can see shots like this in all those movies. He clearly likes to put like a spotlight around things. And I always like that choice. And I think that's what makes Casino stand out to me. Like I can't put it above Goodfellas, but it gets close for me.
Yeah, I would agree. In terms of just a movie, Goodfellas is more what I enjoy, but I do think that the filmmaking part of Casino is or was superior. I agree the highlight part is nice. All the shots in Vegas too, they do such a good job of capturing like the energy level where they are, the whole development of the movie. There are a lot of really, really great shots of just the city itself, I feel too, on top of the highlights that you're showing.
Yeah, I mean Vegas it's so photogenic to begin with. It's a beautiful looking city. It's gonna look great, but you like see like just the white like glow to him is like all that kind of stuff like stands out to me when he's like
Yeah.
stabbing Nicky's stabbing the guy with the pen. He's like, you hear that? sounds like a little girl crying. Like there's somebody crying. But like the blood, like with the white light on it, looks so different. And like, I mean, of course, just brutal.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think that this was really good. Um, a good choice. I'm happy you picked this one. I've saw it on a lot of lists too. I guess maybe I picked Raging Bull just because it was black and white, and as we've known or seen, I'm on that kick right now. So this is a really good choice. I do like that stylistic choice. I feel like it's always showing you. It's like drawing your attention to things, but not. It is obvious, but not in like a I'm holding your hand kind of way.
Yeah, exactly. Like, sometimes when you put the choice forward, it might like be distracting, but I don't think it is.
Yeah. No, good choice though. I like that one.
Thank you.
So my number two is one that I love the movie, and I feel like it's got some of the most iconic just scenes in general, and was shot so well that a lot of people felt emotionally attached to it who were at the event, and that is Saving Private Ryan.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, the Normandy Beach opening of this is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows that scene. Even the scenes when they're having the sniper fight, Vin Diesel gets shot trying to save the kid, the way the rain is falling on their helmets. It's just, there's so much about it that just feels like you're there, like you're running around with this crew. But of course, everyone knows that opening scene. The shot on the boat, the people throwing up, the water splashing around, the plan that goes horribly awry when everyone has to dive off the sides of the boat, the shots under the water showing the people getting stuck and drowning and then shot in the water, the blood coming out under the water. I mean, there's so much before they even get to the beach that happens. And then on the beach, just all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, exactly. Like us moving in, the amount of people, and he stays with us from the water all the way to the beach, and we can see like how many people, like how lucky it makes us feel how lucky they are to actually get to the beach, because the amount of people that are there before that, and then the ones who actually survive, like people are getting picked off left and right next to you. Like you're fortunate that you even made it that far.
Yeah, yeah, no, and it's just shot in such a way, and like you said, it's crazy because the camera starts on the boat, kind of like falls off the boat in the water with everybody else, then makes its way up to the beach, kind of half in the water, half out. It just follows you the whole way through. And it's almost like you're first person as a soldier because, you're following everything from boat to beach to in the trenches at the top and through this whole movie you're following. And like I said, there's other great scenes too. I love in the rain scenes the way you see the rain bouncing off of their helmets. You feel like you're wet with them. You feel as they're stepping and you're hearing all the puddles splash and nothing's ever quiet. There's always bricks and debris squish that are making all this, pitter patter as they're running. Like everything about it was just so well done.
Yeah, that's an excellent choice. Even like later in the movie when they're just all together and like there's some like night shots and like maybe there's like some fire around. Like they have those little in the rain, like they use the rain, great shots in the rain, has a good color palette, like makes it feel like the 1940s, like in a shot like this. Like, there's not much color there. It's very faded. So that's very accurate for the time.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think the faded color of all them is what makes it so much more graphic when you see the people, with blood on their uniforms or like walking around picking up their arm or, like I said, the crazy scenes in the beginning where you see the people in the water and their belts or their gun slings are stuck on a rock and they're trying to swim away. And then you just see bullets pierce through them and blood splash into the water. Like those are the kind of shots that you're like, wow, this was crazy.
Yeah, and it took a lot. I heard a story about this with Steven Spielberg, how they waited around for hours to shoot one shot because he needed the sun to get to a certain spot, and like then the clouds started moving in, and people had like, we got to do something, different here. It's just not working, like And he's like, oh, fine, but he wanted that shot so bad.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, I
makes
think and
it's the perfection.
yeah, and I think that's again we keep talking about it. These films, we those directors who aren't directors for hire, they have a vision and they know what they want.
And Spielberg obviously is one of the great. Filmed in Ireland, John. Well, it's a beautiful country, beautiful hillsides. I know one beautiful person who came from there. So my number two, and this one might be another one of those, like I think my top two are kind of like safe picks, but also kind of very special to me. Both of these movies are, well, this is the one movie in my top 10 all time, and that's Blade Runner. I love this movie. I think it's one of the most beautifully shot films ever. But in general, I just love the movie. It's a noir film, like set in the future with Blade Runners or people like this is a shot like that looks like a painting. That's in the movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say that looks like something someone would have hanging up in their living room.
Yeah, and you could, and that's how beautiful looking the movie is. I mean, obviously, a lot of this is the world that was created. Like this is the same guy who made Alien. Ridley Scott's one of the greats, and you could argue Alien's a beautifully shot film too because of again the great set design. We fill this stuff up with smoke, but then even like in the future shots, like how we can like do things like this. Like that's incredible. Like in the movie itself, like to have all that, like we're using miniatures, a combination of so much stuff. But I do understand like people don't love Blade Runner that much because they think they're getting a sci-fi action movie. It's really just a sci-fi noir film, and it's a little slow, but I love it.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably the biggest complaint. I don't think anyone would really complain about the way it was shot. I think that a lot of people didn't know what they were getting into. So they were kind of disappointed in that. But like you said, I mean, even when they're down on the streets, walking through the cities, I feel like the way that shot, you really get like the grittiness of it. I feel like it's shot in a way that you feel like you're there, and you can feel. I don't know how else to describe it, but you can feel how gritty it is to be walking through those streets they're walking through.
Yeah, 110%, and it feels like it's a good imagery for the future. And you could argue Blade Runner 2049 looks better. Because Denis Villeneuve also knows how to shoot a movie and shoots things practically. So it's a great follow-up. I just think that the original did it best, in my opinion, and that's why I have to choose this.
Well, listen, I agree, and I think the other thing you have to know also is 2049 came out in what year?
I want to say 2017 or 18.
And when did the original Blade Runner come out?
That would be the same exact month as E.T., The Thing, Wrath of Khan, and Poltergeist G2.
So 82. First of all, that list, that is a banger.
1
I
month.
mean, good God, that's quite the month of movies. Imagine we had that nowadays.
You're lucky you get that in a year.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking about a movie that was made in 82 versus the 2010s. So of course 2049 is going to look clearer, crisper. The camera technology has come a long way. CGI has come along, all that kind of stuff. But I think that's why you got to give the original the credit because they didn't have the tools that 2049 had, and they still made a beautiful looking film.
Oh, gorgeous looking film, in my opinion. I mean, listen, Denis Villeneuve, he makes some beautiful looking films. That's why I'm glad he's going to be the next director of James Bond because at the very least, it'll be a very good looking film, and I'm sure it'll be put some heart and soul in it. But this is the guy who gave us so many different good looking movies. His whole career has been filled with beautiful looking movies. Like Prisoners is glorious. I watched Blade Runner the other night for the first time. I thought it looked great, but I didn't get into the story. And I get that. That's actually, it's funny. Blade Runner is actually one of those movies that took me 3 times to really, truly fall in love with it because I went into it with the mindset of a lot of people who think that this movie is going to be more action filled. And it's really, it's not. It's very slow moving. It's very plotting. And it's really asking a lot of tough questions about humanity. And I think if you go into it thinking that, it hinders the movie for a while for you. But eventually, the beauty was just enough for me to always keep coming back. Like I love the score too, so it's hard for me. But I do understand other people's perspective on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. But that brings us to our number ones, and I feel like a broken record here, John. I got to be honest with you.
Go for it.
Jaws.
You're going to go with Jaws, huh? Well, you know what? That's fair
Jaws.
enough. That's fair enough.
I talked about it this whole time, and I love when the camera is a character. The shots that they get under the water, half in, half out of the water. The fact that the camera, I know it's because the shark didn't work and all that stuff, but the fact that the camera is the shark effectively, all those underwater shots, the opening scene where they're just, or credits where they're just kind of going through the reefs, all that stuff, every single ocean shot they have, all the shots of the boat, the orca with the shooting star behind it, you just can't deny how perfect this film is.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's definitely a Dennis pick, and it's probably a David pick too, and I understand it. And it's funny is like one thing when I think about with this movie is what me and David broke it down a couple weeks ago. There's 2 episodes out there you guys can watch. There's some beautiful shots in the film that I can never deny. Like, for instance, this shot. I always thought this shot was phenomenal in the movie. John, I'm leaving. This is I doing our own Jaws podcast. Understandable. Like, you guys could just go over there and just fill your thumbs and whatever else you guys want to touch the Jaws all day. But I mean,
I
like,
mean,
this shot's iconic, obviously. Like the dolly zoom, which is from Vertigo, which almost made my list too. But this is the best version of that shot, right?
yeah, and that's what I mean. Even what you showed before, the shot under the water, with this, the lighting behind the body. I mean, and like I said, everything on the boat, everything. I think the thing is they played with the water so much in this one because most of the movie's on the boat. Um, it really, a lot of those shots are so nice. But that's such like great. I mean, I know, like, listen, it's from the 70s, but they did some really, really interesting things. They did a lot of really cool camera work. Um, I just feel like you can't deny it. I mean, even the scenes in the little town. I mean, it's the little town of Amity as they're walking through.
I
It
mean,
just everything looks great.
the shot in the sand with the bugs or whatever those things are crawling on it, like that's iconic too. You can't.
Yeah, then like you could literally turn this movie on and press pause at any second, and people know exactly what that was.
Yeah, exactly. And to Mellow Fellow and Ryan Desmond are talking about, these are just great shots. Like, Birdman was made to look like one shot the entire movie. That's why that movie's great. And that Goodfellas, yeah, that shot, of course, is great too. The one shot. But Jaws overall, that's a perfect pick. You can't go wrong with that. Dennis, do you have a favorite shot?
I have a favorite shot. I mean, one of my favorites, I don't know if I could pick one favorite, but one of my favorites is, I think it's a little bit obvious, but when you kind of first see the shark, where his head is sideways and his mouth is open, but it's all under the water. His head is under the water and everything, and we're above the water. And he comes up to bite that guy, to bite his leg off. I feel like that is such a cool scene to see the side of the shark, but he never breaches the water or anything. He just surfaces a little bit and then of course the leg just floats down to the bottom, which I think is also hilarious.
The shark going out of the water behind the kid. We are fitting it.
Yeah.
That's a good one too. I mean, the movie's filled with fantastic shots. I love the shot when I think of the movie. I think of the blood spurting in the air, like just the water combined with the blood shooting in the air with the kid underwater, like getting dragged underwater. That's always what pops in my mind first for Jaws.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. The Kittner boy.
Yep. And when you watch the documentaries and you hear that, like, they were throwing him up in the air and everything to get those kinds of shots because he couldn't do it himself.
Yeah, well, that was the girl in the beginning too, right? Wasn't she on a bunch of like pulleys from school, and they were just yanking her back and forth?
Yeah, they like apparently would trust him first, and then like it's like, we're gonna have to do it.
Yeah.
So that's an excellent number one. My number one, I guarantee you wouldn't have been able to call this, but it's Fargo.
Wow, really?
Oh my god, I had to pick one Roger Deakins movie from here. So the reason, I could have gone with 1917, I could have gone with, but Fargo, shots like this are just beautiful to me. I mean, it doesn't make logical sense why his would be the only car in the parking lot here, but I'm also a sucker for snow. So there's a reason why I love The Thing. And like, even like, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. You see a lot of horror movies, but The Lodge that came out a few years ago.
Yeah.
I fucking hate that movie. And I sat through the entire thing in theaters and walked out thinking, I hate this movie, but God, I love the snow. And because I do, I love the way the snow looks. And it's kind of a big reason why I stay in New York, is like I do like I think it's just something that looks so beautiful, and Fargo captures that perfectly. And again, like, beautiful Roger Deakins shots, and they were trying to make the movie look realistic on purpose. So like, to get shots like this, they were waiting for it to snow. They had to like stop shooting other scenes to make sure they got real snow in there. This shot with the lights on his eyes doesn't make sense why he would have his eyes lit in this shot, because the lights are behind him, but it's still a beautiful shot.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, there's a lot of them. I think too, the shot where he's burying the big briefcase in the snow, he's got the blood all over his neck and everything. I think you're right. The snow is really good because it's such a stark contrast, right? Like, it's so white and pure, and then you have like this character who's just covered in blood and just running for his. I feel like there's a lot with the snow, like we talk about like lighting and everything. I think the snow being such a stark one color thing, it plays a really really crucial role in a lot of movies, and this one in
Yeah.
particular I think captures it.
Yeah, like the real contrast is anytime there's blood, it's just like white. It's white, it's pure, it's clean, and now you get it dirtied up with blood. It's messy now, and that's basically what this town is like. What this whole movie's about. It's like underneath all this like beauty and like everything seems like such a perfect town. There's a lot of piece of shit floating under the surface.
Yeah, big time, but good choice. I am surprised, but I do like that.
Yeah. Oh, Avatar. Yeah, there's a lot of like that. I thought that one might be a surprise, but I can't deny how much. Like, if Roger Deakins, I think is the best cinematographer of all time. Were you the guy who did you like the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford?
Me?
Yeah, I don't remember if it
Yeah.
was you. Yeah, well, that's Roger Deakins too, and I was between that and Fargo if I could only pick one because that's also another beautifully shot film.
Wow. All right. Yeah, no, I am surprised. I guess I didn't know what I expected you to pick, but um this is a good call though. I like that movie too. It's funny, I only saw Fargo for the first time like last year too.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, Fargo. This is one that it's my favorite of the Coen brothers, and like it's not No Country for Old Men or Big Lebowski. I love a lot of their movies, but for me, it's always been Fargo. And it's funny because I came to it kind of late, and I read this is one where I read the premise, and I'm like, pregnant cop. I'm like, I don't, it doesn't sound good to me. And then I watched it. I'm like, oh my god, I love this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely an odd film overall, but it works for some reason.
Yeah, it just my god, I love it. I love the movie so much. I can go on about Fargo. It comes from the close-ish by it to be. Yeah, for me, he's the goat. I just think like even like 1917 making that movie, like the shots of them running in the with the fire behind them is beautiful.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have to get out of here yet. I know we're getting
Um
cool.
I could probably answer one more question, but probably not the top 10 question we were asked. The other one.
No, I figured that. So I'll show you guys. So we have some questions for next week that we'll do up top so people don't think we skipped them. So this one's from Deranged Psychopath. Top 10 most iconic cartoon characters of all time. That'll be on next week's show, but we could probably do this one really quick because it's really just an opinion.
Yeah.
And it's from Ben Rondo, and I'll read it aloud. What's more impressive, Jim Carrey with 3 number 1 movies in 1994, or Tim Allen with the number 1 movie, number 1 TV show, and number 1 book also in 1994? As always, I appreciate your opinion, man. So what do you think is more impressive?
So this was a tough one because obviously both are really impressive. The only reason I'm going to lean in this direction, which is Tim Allen, is because it's three different forms of media. You know, he wrote a book. I don't know if he actually did he write it himself or did he have someone write it for him?
I'm not sure. I think it's his biography, though, if I'm correct, which is, he's got a fascinating life, Tim Allen, getting arrested and everything and going to prison for all those years and then coming back to be this big, I mean, the king of Disney essentially for a long time there.
Yeah, so that's the only reason I pick it. Like Jim Carrey, listen, can't deny it. That's insane to have three number one movies in a year. Um, but he's acting. And that's it. He's proved he's a really good actor. Where Tim Allen, like he and a movie actor too. I feel like there's a big difference between movie and TV acting too. Like a lot of actors are either really good at TV and bad at movies, or really good at movies and bad at TV. So Tim Allen just being able to do a number one TV show, number one movie, and a book, it's just three different outlets. So I would give the edge slightly to him, not to knock it, because having three number one movies in the same year is insane also.
Yeah. So when I first saw this question, it was funny to me because I thought to myself, there he says Santa Claus. I thought to myself, like, oh, that's easy. Number one. I mean, Jim Carrey. I love Jim Carrey. Those three are still his best movies. He banged them all out in the 1 year. That's crazy. No other actor has ever done that. Then I'm thinking about it, and everything you said is right. He is number one in 3 mediums at one time. Like to have Home Improvement be the number one show, Santa Claus be number one at the box office, and then to have your biography be like everyone knew who Tim Allen was. Like, I mean, everyone knew who Jim Carrey was, but I think everybody at this point, because it didn't just have to be a movie fan to know Jim Carrey. And not everyone thinks Jim Carrey's funny, but I think that at this time, Tim Allen really, he crossed over into everything.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair too, Jim Carrey was focused on movies, obviously. Had he done a TV show, and then wrote a book, maybe he would have done the same thing. He obviously just focused on movies, and Tim Allen focused on a few different avenues. That's like I said, the only reason. Both incredible accomplishments for both guys. I just think three different mediums is just gets the edge a little bit in my opinion.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. And not for nothing, like Mozart Ghost said here, but I also agree, Scout Calvin. For me, like because the year I was born is 1992, and actually you were born in 94. When I think of Santa Claus, the first image that pops in my head for my entire life has always been Tim Allen as Santa Claus. Like that's Santa Claus to me.
Yeah, 100%. The only time that change is starting to change now because of Kurt Russell's Santa.
Oh, that's
Um,
fair.
but again, like I love Jaws, I love Kurt Russell. So
So yeah, like and you know what, honestly, he pulls off the Santa Claus look too. But I don't know, like Tim Allen's, he's one of those guys, like almost like Robin Williams to me, like a big part of my childhood. Like it's kind of like I'm always kind of had a slight attachment to him, and big reason I love the Santa Claus. I can't lie, I love that movie so much.
yeah, and I mean it came out when we were kids, so it was a crucial time in our both of our growing up. I mean, I was barely alive when it came out. I was not even a year old, but it was still around when I started watching movies. So of course it plays a huge role and it still does. I'm sure there's a lot of kids who still watch that movie. So that's what I mean. I think just being able to make a movie and have a TV show, because especially nowadays, how frequently do TV shows get canceled?
It's ridiculous, and yeah, and that show lasted from the early '90s all the way to I want to say 1999. So it was probably one of the biggest shows of the 1990s.
Yeah, so he had a successful show. Not even like it was the number one show that year, only lasted 3 seasons and got canceled. He made it 5 or more years
I
on
think
a
it's like
TV show.
8 years or something like that for Home Improvement. I mean, and that's where we got Pam Anderson.
There you go. So, I mean, there you go. Add that to the list of things he did for us.
The gift that keeps on giving, you know?
Yeah, but that is gonna have to do it for me. Unfortunately, I do have to
Mm,
get to work now.
unfortunate. I'm sorry. Well, thanks for being here as always. And don't forget, guys, Dennis will be here back next Tuesday at 7:30 again. And me and Dennis have a show coming out on Thursday, the top 10 A24 films. So check that one out too if you want more of our thoughts together.
Yeah, and thank you guys as always for the questions. Keep them coming. For any that we missed, we're sorry. We're trying to keep up with the hour and a half that we have. We do miss some, so we'll try to keep getting to them, but keep them coming. Thank you guys.
Yep. So those ones you saw, we didn't get to them this week. We'll get them next week. I'll answer one or two more questions alone and do the giveaway, and then I'll get out of here. But Dennis, enjoy your day at work, buddy.
You too, man. I'll talk to you later.
Later. So now you guys just got me. All right, guys. So wanted to get into this is actually a good question from Ryan. Will you ever discuss an unanswered movie theory question? Example, the old man and the serious man. Was he a demon? What does it have to do with the rest of the film? So yeah, well, especially I would love to do questions like that. And A Serious Man is one that I would love to also get into a little bit more because A Serious Man, I think, is one of the Coen brothers' most fascinating films. There's a lot in there, a lot in the subtext, and especially the way they choose to end that movie. I would love to do a question like that one day. That would be fun to do. I would always take questions like that. Obviously, Dennis had to get out of here a little bit early today, so we couldn't really do them all. But I'm going to do one question myself, though, because it's from Ryan Hill while I spin the magic wheel. And he said, how do you decide which movie you're going to watch on any given night? Do you have the whole week planned out or ahead of time? So it's funny that you add that to you do need it. It's a great movie. So it's funny that the way I do it now is pretty much all my movies are picked out for me just because of YouTube. Like, obviously I got to watch all the movies that I'm going to be reviewing for 4K Blu-ray reviews. So those are all planned out ahead of time. Honestly, lately it's been tough because there's so many of them. But usually I have that all planned out. Then for my channel director reviews, those are always ahead of time. So any channel member who I review movies for or bankroll member like Mr. Smelly Potato, those I usually watch at the beginning of the month and then I review them in the middle. And then the video goes up towards the end. So I usually do it like that. And also those movies are always on the schedule. New movies, like movies I have to see in theaters, those are always on the schedule. I go usually at least once a week. So at least I'm seeing one new movie. And I can only really watch like one movie a day. Sometimes on my days off, I might be able to get two in. And then I'm married, so I got to compromise a little bit with my wife and pick those kinds of movies as well. So I don't always get to watch even what I want to watch, but hey, it's tough. I think about the movie I want to watch all day. Then I sit down and watch something random. That happens too. And one thing I've learned, I don't know if you guys ever feel like this, but when I have a free night, like when the movie's not chosen for me, I almost don't like it anymore because there's too many options. Like but I can go over here and I'm like, do I want to I want to make it like important. Like I want to make sure I'm not wasting my free time. But then I end up like being like, all right, I'll just watch Batman 89 for the 100th time. And, of course I'm happy because a Batman 89 will make me happy no matter what. But it's like, I have a free time. I should be watching one of these other movies, but sometimes I want some comfort food. But yeah, usually for me, it goes movies I got to review for the channel first. And usually that ends up taking like, with director reviews, like 20 slots for the month. And new releases, that's like 20 to 22, 23 maybe. And then maybe I get some free choices. And then, of course, then there's my wife who will drag me into one of her movies, who's watching Love Island in the other room that I can hear right now. So, that's usually how I pick my movies. I don't really ever get a free choice that much, which is fine. I actually don't want it. I prefer it this way. So don't think of that as a complaint. I would rather have the movies picked out for me. And sometimes I get a new 4K. Like one of the choice reviews for this month was 1776, which I'd never seen before. The 4K Blu-ray was on sale for like 16 or 17 bucks. I bought it. I watched the 4K. I loved the movie. So you know what? That's a triple win essentially for me. Movie I never would have watched. Finally caught up to. I watch movies based on personal category question. I asked myself, what is one of the best directors of all time? Then go down the path to decide. So what me with directors is, and it gets tough, is that I like to go down little director paths like that too, and I end up watching like a bunch of movies. Like I'll go like a John Cassavetes path. I went down earlier this year. I watched like 3 or 4 of his movies in a month, or probably now at Barry Lyndon, I guarantee you I'll go down a Stanley Kubrick path because the 4K for Barry Lyndon is coming out. So I might have some free time and I might go revisit some of his other movies that I haven't watched in a while. Paths of Glory is a great one I always like to revisit. So that's always like how I help to choose too. It was pretty good adaptation of the play. I never saw the play, but I'm not a big musical guy, Mozart's Ghost, which might surprise you because, one movie 1776 completely reminded me of is Amadeus. So, obviously we're playing with history, kind of modernizing it, adding some musical numbers. I'm not a big musical guy, but I'm like, that's not even the point of this movie. The musical numbers are great, by the way. And of course, the actor who plays Mr. Feeney is the lead, but it's a great, great film, 1776. I loved it. I really did. At a time where sometimes it's not very easy to be proud to be an American that often lately. Like, that one kind of made you feel some American pride of like what our country was built on. It's a beautiful looking movie. It's a great 4K. So I had a great time watching 1776 for the first time. Can't wait to talk more about that. It's just, I never saw it before. And I sometimes, when I get a recommendation like that, it's great. There's always, that's one thing that's why the director reviews are so fun. I get recommendations for movies I've never seen before. Due Date was one of those movies that Mr. Smelly Potato recommended. Don't know why I never saw that. That should be like right up my alley. So we also got to do the digital code giveaway. So I'm going to add the wheel to the stage. We're going to spin this bad boy 2 times. And, obviously the winner. Oh, why is it on the stage? I'll make it bigger. All right. So there you guys go. That's all the names. Not a lot of names entered into the digital code giveaway this week. Only 18. So the 2 winners though will have their choice of the digital codes, which I'll show you after we spin the wheel. Let's spin the wheel first though. Unfortunately I can't have the music over it, so I'll just vamp. The founding fathers are fascinating. They really are. It's just amazing, like all the stuff that they're talking about. Obviously, I know 1776 isn't based on 100% pure fact, but the way they made the film is incredible. Who is this going to be? We'll see right now. Those are obviously John Connell 9DR. That's the first time winner. So congratulations there. We're going to remove your name from the magic wheel. Spin again. And we'll see who the second winner is. Mellow Fellow, what did you say, buddy? Let's just see. I just recently got the new remake of The Color Purple because Haley Bailey did. How was that? I haven't watched that remake because it's a musical, and also the Steven Spielberg one is more than enough for me, which is an all-time classic, obviously. Spielberg. Who's this going to be? Movie Fan 9158. Congratulations. Both of you guys are new winners. So the way this works is you reach out to me in my email address, let's talk entmt@gmail.com. Wow, this full screen video of me, man. My beard looks very bushy like this, huh? Hopefully it doesn't bother you guys. I like my beard. But you guys reach out to me on my email address, let's talk entmt@gmail.com, and you will let me know which of these digital codes, I'll remove this from the stage, and we're going to add these to the stage, you would like. A lot of these are donations from Rogue One, Mr. Smelly Potato, so you can thank them for that. Scotty Guns. A lot of people have donated. If I'm forgetting you, I am sorry, but these are the ones that are available to you. So screenshot them when you email me. Let me know which of them you would like. And then, of course, you could also reach me at the artist formerly known as Twitter. Look for Let's Talk Entertainment and Media. You can reach me at Instagram as well. And, of course, Facebook Messenger. I check those a little less than I check the email. The email is always the easiest way. For some reason, I just notifications on social media aren't great when they get sent to me, and like sometimes they ask for your approval and I miss them. So always easiest to get to the email. Let's talk entmt@gmail.com, and let me know which of those digital codes you want, and as long as the other winner didn't take it, it is all yours. So it's Haley Bailey. Sometimes that's enough. Yes, sometimes that is enough, but I could just watch those scenes online. As long as this, I just want to make sure it's like, I'm just not the world's biggest musical guy. And sometimes if it's mostly musical, there's always exceptions. Like I just said, 1776 and La La Land are two films that I can always, those don't feel necessarily like full-blown musicals. I enjoy them. Even Grease is one that I'm not a huge fan of, which might be surprising, but West Side Story, not a huge fan of, but I've tried always. Singing in the Rain, that's one I can actually get behind. I think it's because it's about making movies. Always really love that movie as well. So that's our digital code giveaway. And then, we're going to get to all the rest of the questions next week. The one about the top 10 iconic cartoon characters. That's a great one. I'll leave questions in the comments on this video, or I'll put a post out later in the week. And next week we will do that as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this week's show. That was fun. That was a hard list to make. Some really tough cuts. I believe in the top 10 list. I believe in like cutting it off at 10 and like that being it. Amadeus is fantastic. I love Amadeus. That is actually moving up my list of some of my favorite films. Every time I rewatch that movie, I absolutely enjoy it. And when I was younger, I was not a big fan of period pieces or big costume pieces. And it's amazing how much that has changed in me. And I guess that's something that comes with age. I appreciate those movies so much more. I actually get like excited. Like I was genuinely excited to watch 1776. Like I was like, oh my God, that's a great recommendation. I can't wait to see it. So, as we get older, our film taste change. Maybe that's also why, like David says, you kind of become a little bit of a grumpy old man. Like, these damn modern films. And it's like, I get it. I'm right there with you. I walk out of so many Marvel movies going like, what the fuck? So I get it. But I got to keep trying. I got to keep doing the work. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it here for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this live show. And I will be seeing you guys next week, next Tuesday at 7:30 a.m. But there's still videos out every day. Tomorrow will be another review for James Bond. We are up to You Only Live Twice on 4K Steelbook. Thursday, top 10 A24 films. Friday, David and I are putting out Dog Day Afternoon. So make sure you guys are subscribed for that, for the Let's Talk Movies podcast. And then, of course, I got Cobra right here on 4K that I just watched last night. So you'll get a 4K Blu-ray of that hopefully on Saturday. But I'll see you guys. Enjoy your days. Make it a good one.